Most trucking companies think their driver staffing problems come from pay rates or freight or the market. But after working with hundreds of fleets, here's what I can tell you. Driver hiring starts long before you ever run an ad. It starts with knowing exactly who you are and who you are not. Because if your culture isn't clear, you'll keep attracting the wrong drivers and losing the right ones. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the mindsets that actually predict driver success and driver loyalty. It's not CPM, it's not bonuses, it's not gimmicks, but beliefs, habits, and culture inside your fleet. This is Driven for Success, the podcast for trucking company owners who want to run smarter, more profitable businesses without drowning in back office chaos. I'm your host, Mike Ritzema, founder of Superior Trucking Payroll Service. So today we're going to start with a question of the week. And that question came from a client of ours, and they wanted to know about the overtime, how we report it for the W 2. And they asked, hey, we haven't been sending you overtime. We've just been sending you gross pay. Can we send you the overtime behind it so you can put it on the W 2 in the special box for the drivers? And the special box they're talking about is with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, overtime in many circumstances is not taxable anymore. So they wanted to make sure that it got properly reported on the W 2 because they hadn't been sending the hours or anything through the year. Well, unfortunately, that overtime isn't overtime, which I know sounds weird, but overtime as defined for OBBA is the FLSA, Fair Labor Standards Act, mandated overtime where you have to pay them time and a half. If you didn't have to pay them time and a half, if you were not legally required to pay them time and a half for those hours, that's really just a bonus and that's taxable. So unfortunately, none of that overtime, if you want to call it that, uh, is really, FLSA mandated overtime premium. So it's not going to be on the W 2 in the special box. Now, your hourly people, when I say hourly people, your office people that get paid by the hour, if they get overtime, that's going to go in the box because they're not part of the exemption under the Fair Labor Standards Act for interstate commerce with drivers or driver loaders or mechanics. So that's unfortunately for those people, the mechanics and the drivers and those guys, that overtime you're going to end up paying tax on it. It's a bummer. It's no good. It's not the intention of the law, I'm sure. I think that all the trucking companies that ask questions like this act with good intentions. They want to reward their drivers with extra for working extra hours, and I think that's great. Unfortunately, the tax law does not support that. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news in this holiday season, but here we are. Let's talk about other things with drivers here. Today we're going to talk about some of the mindsets that really make or break driver hiring and driver staffing. Because driver staffing is not a marketing problem and it's not a recruiting problem necessarily. It's a mindset problem. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but I really wanted to deep dive into it more. I had gotten some good feedback and I really wanted to share more of that with you and kind of walk you through it a little more detail, help it make more sense, hopefully, and maybe you can apply it to your trucking company and hire the right driver. And that's really what it comes down to is who are the right drivers for you? The biggest thing is your insurance company probably has a list of guidelines that you have to get approved. If you want to hire the driver, they have to have this many points or less. They need to have this much experience and so on and so on. That's the floor. That is the minimum of people you can hire. But that's not where you should live. You don't want the minimum success for your business. You want more than that. And that's going to require you to hire better drivers. And when I say better drivers, a better driver for you is not a better driver for somebody else. And a better driver for somebody else is not a better driver for you. So you have to know who you are and who you are not. Here's the thing. Most trucking companies never stop to define their identity. They don't know who they are, and they end up trying to be everything to everyone. And so where that manifests itself in driver recruiting is that you hire anybody who meets the minimum qualifications for your insurance and can fog a mirror. And that's not the way you want to do it. You need to know that some drivers are good fits for you and some drivers are not. And the way that you do that is through having a mission and mindsets. The mission, very briefly, is your North Star. It is the reason your company is there. And that's not just to keep your house heated or to make the owner as wealthy as possible. It might be to make everybody who touches the company financially better, which would be the drivers and everybody. It might be to be an elite carrier from California to North Carolina. Be like the people that everybody think of. Oh yeah, I got to move some freight from Los Angeles to Greensboro. That's you got to call these guys. Those are legitimate ones. Ours here is to help trucking families. So whenever we have to make a big decision, or we're going to think about a new initiative, or we're going to think about not doing something, we ask ourselves, does it help trucking families? And if it helps trucking families, then we move forward. And if it doesn't, then we stop right there and it's done. Uh, so that it's kind of a community that unites everybody. Everybody here wants to help trucking families. So we put it in our ads when we're looking to add staff. We say, our mission is to help trucking families, and these are our mindsets, and I'll get to those in a minute. And if it sounds like nonsense to you, then you're going to be a great employee for somebody else. And we wish you well. We don't root against people. There's no point in it. So, but if these things make sense to you, if this seems like the kind of place you want to work, then let's talk. And speaking of your ad, having the same ad as everybody else is a bad idea. Small fleets can't hire like the mega carriers can. You can't compete with them on some of the things that they can do, but you can still be different than them because you are different than them. And there's going to be really good drivers who don't want to work for a mega carrier. They want to work for a small fleet. And so you can put that right in your ad too. Things just as a quick aside, you make your ad special to you. I go through every once in a while, I go on Craigslist and look at the driver ads for that day, just here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and there'll be 40 or 50 of them. And half of them are the same: good pay, good hours, good equipment, family environment. Well, everybody says that, but that doesn't really differentiate you because they all say it. If you're a small trucking company, one of the things I would say is work for the owner directly, no middleman. That's actually something that the driver is going to relate to because they've been told good pay, good hours, good equipment, family environment everywhere they've ever worked, and they're looking for a job so that these people the driver didn't feel like those people were truthful. So you got to watch out for that. But you need to define the driver that your company is best for. And then you do that through mindsets. We have mindsets here. We have 6 mindsets that we use, and any employee who doesn't do those mindsets consistently gets invited to work somewhere else. We're happy to go through them with you, but it's just the idea that those things are non-negotiable. It's more important to us than how good you are at payroll because we can teach you payroll. And if you have these mindsets you're going to be better at, you're going to continue to get better at it anyway. One of ours is constant, never-ending improvement, that you just want to continually be better. But your company's mindset should be yours. I'm happy to make suggestions, but I'll make one up. Something like be a professional. And what I would mean by that is you'd have to define this for everybody too, because like ours, constant, never-ending improvement, you have to define it and tell people what it means. Well, it means this and this and this and not this. So be a professional. I just made that up, right? And that means showing up ready for work. It means being prepared. It means dressing like you do this professionally for a living. It means being able to speak in complete sentences when you're talking to the shipper or the receiver. Not being a hothead, not yelling at them, things like that. But you define what it means. And then you say every time, this is what we're going to require. And we're going to require it of everybody. It's not just the drivers, it's the office people, the mechanics, the dispatchers, everybody. We're going to require this. And people that don't do it are going to be invited to leave because we're not going to tolerate it. What you've probably known too in your life, but it's hard to remember in the moment too, is that hiring the wrong driver is worse than not hiring a driver. In the moment, you're like, well, I got the truck payment. I got to make this truck payment, and that truck doesn't make any money if the wheels don't turn. So I need to get a driver in there as soon as I can. Well, that wrong driver ends up costing you a lot more. It costs you goodwill with your customers if that driver doesn't perform. It costs you friction all through your office, and with your other drivers, which those other drivers that you really like aren't going to tolerate forever. The best people want to work with the best people. There's a HBO miniseries called Band of Brothers that came out around 2000, 2001, and it's about a company of soldiers in World War II. They were paratroopers. And it's a really fantastic 10 hours of your time to watch. But the thing I want to look at is they would ask these veterans, why do you want to be a paratrooper? Paratrooper was a new thing. Paratroopers jumped behind enemy lines to kind of soften the ground so when the invasion came in, they could make the beachhead successfully and things like that. Very dangerous job. No one had ever done it. We invented this thing, we or whoever invented it. They asked him, why would you want to do this? And some of the guys said, well, it paid more. And it paid a little bit more. But a lot of them said, hey, when I'm in battle, I want to be with the best. I want to know that the person in the foxhole with me is the best. And so it was not easy to become a paratrooper. People would get kicked out of there all the time. You'd go through paratrooper school and you wouldn't make the cut. So they wanted to know that the person in the battle with them was the best. And that's true of any workplace. If the best drivers want to work with the best drivers. So hiring the wrong driver just messes that up. It makes your good drivers wonder why they're there because they want to work with the best drivers. So, and a clear set of mindsets will repel the bad drivers. When I say bad drivers too, they're bad drivers for you. That doesn't mean they're universally empirically bad drivers. It means they don't fit with you. So a clear set of mindsets will tell you who the right drivers are and who the wrong drivers are. And when you talk about it, the ones that roll their eyes, probably the wrong drivers. So the next thing is drivers don't quit jobs. They don't quit over money. They don't leave you for a penny a mile to go somewhere else. They quit chaos. They quit unpredictability. They quit erraticness. And what I mean by that is erraticness a word? Yeah, we'll just assume it is. Drivers want consistency. They want to know what to expect. They want to have clear communication about what they're getting paid to do that job. They want to actually get paid for that job and not have any mistakes get made. And if mistakes do get made, they want them fixed right away. They don't want the chaos of all that. Because drivers leave over trust, which might be a hard lesson to hear because if you've got driver turnover, but they leave because they don't trust you to do the right thing. They don't trust that it's going to work out. Chaos in the office becomes chaos in the cab. You can't have that. The driver, you can't live in chaos all day. It'll exhaust you. And it's the same thing for the drivers. Much like a chaotic driver will exhaust you, the office being chaotic will exhaust the driver, and you'll want to make a change. So if you're clear about your mindsets and you're clear about your mission, you can reduce that chaos because now we're clear about what we're about. We know this is what we're about. We're about doing the right thing. We're about being a professional. We're about whatever your things are. I'm happy to share ours. By the way, reach out to me. I'll share ours with you, but yours should be yours. That's why I'm not saying them right now. They're also on our website, I'm sure, and in any ad we've ever done. But yours should be yours. What does the ideal employee? What kind of attitudes do they have? What's their default process to things? Is it to acknowledge responsibility in that something went wrong, or is it to blame everybody else? Nobody wants to blame people. I don't think that's going to be nobody's going to have a mindset that says we want people that shift blame to somebody else. It doesn't work that way. So, and we talked about drivers not quitting jobs over chaos, over disruption. The right drivers are attracted to the right mindsets. People want to join cultures, and they don't use the word culture, and that's okay. Mindsets and mission are culture. They don't. That's what they want to do. Mission-driven companies are going to stand out. If everybody else is, we're a trucking company and we go from Illinois to New Mexico, and that's fine. And somebody else is like, no, we deliver best-in-class freight to great customers with great equipment, and we're different. We do it for this reason. We do it to help benefit all the families of everyone who works with us, including our customers, including our drivers, including our office people. something like that, that's a lot better. It's a lot more powerful, and you got to really do it too. You can't just, this isn't one of those mission statement things you've probably ever seen where some consultant walks in and gives you an 8.5 by 11 framed picture of your mission statement that uses a lot of words that don't say anything and probably says synergy. It's not that. That's not what we're doing. That is nonsense waste of time. This is things you're actually going to do. And it's mindsets are the things you actually require, and you have to require them for the mindsets. So, but the companies that do this stand out. And the example I think of too, and it's a story that if you've seen on social media, it's very possible. But you hear the story of the two guys that were making bricks, and they asked the first guy, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm making bricks." The second guy goes, they ask him, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm making a cathedral." And that's the mission, making the cathedral. The other guy's just making bricks. So drivers, and I say this about drivers, but it's true about everybody. The mission helps give them belonging. Belonging is really important, and it's more important now than ever. I don't want to be all candy bars cost a nickel back in the day, but we used to have block parties and things like that. You knew your neighbors better than people do now. Everybody hung out together. You had a community, and that community has really fallen apart over the last 40 years. It's not. I'm not taking shots at anybody or blaming reasons or whatever. That's not my point. It's just that people don't have the sense of community they used to have. A lot of people get it in the workplace. So if your community is chaos, that's not where you want to be. It's not good for your long-term well-being, and you're going to know that. So they want to belong to something bigger than just I drive a truck for pay. They want to be part of an elite group. They want to be part of a group that has a bigger objective. And your values also will determine who applies. You put them right on the application, right on the job posting, and Indeed or wherever you post your jobs, Craigslist. You're going to turn off a decent number of people, and that's fantastic. Of the thousands of people that look at your job posting on Craigslist, you don't want them all to apply. What would you do if 1,000 people applied? You've got 40 trucks. You'd never get through them. So let's weed out the people that aren't good fits right away. And these mindsets will be magnets. They'll attract the right people. They'll attract the people that you want. So it's going to encourage the people that are bad fits not to apply. It's going to encourage people that are good fits to apply. That seems like the best possible scenario. So just something to consider there, because you define who you are, you define what you're about, and then you put that in the ad. You say, this is who we are, and this is what we're about. And this is what we like, and this is what we don't. And I'll tell you that my clients that have the lowest turnover, I'm thinking of two of them in particular. They don't do it formally this way, I don't think. If they do, they never told me they do it formally this way. But that's really what they're doing. And their turnover is astonishingly low. And these aren't 5-truck trucking companies. One of them has 30 trucks and one of them has 80 trucks. And their turnover is just minuscule because they know who they're about. They know exactly what they're about. They know exactly what they want to do. And they communicate that, and they don't hire the drivers that aren't good fits. So, and that kind of brings me to the next point of knowing who you are is great. Isn't that one of the philosopher things? Know yourself. But you have to communicate that to the drivers and even before they apply. But you have to be very crystal clear about what these mindsets are and what they mean. And you can do it you start in the job posting and you follow it up in the interview. But you can look at your records for a lot of you. If you have more than 2 drivers, and you're going to see, if you see how long your driver stay, more than half of them that leave in the first 90 days. That's been like that for years. And why did they leave? Well, something wasn't the way they thought it was going to be. And I'm not blaming you, but you can be crystal clear on your side. You can say, this is exactly how it's going to go. It's exactly what we're going to do. And then you do it. And you can tell them, this is exactly what we expect from you. This is how it's going to work. And these mindsets really win the day. The companies that have recruiters, you really want to watch out for this, because the recruiters get paid to bring people on. They don't necessarily get paid to keep them there, which is really a bad idea. But it's hard, right? And so You want to make sure that they're recruiting with all the mindsets and things that you want them to recruit with. The way you're gonna find out too is to do exit interviews, and if the exit interviews say, "The recruiter lied to me," you get a couple of those, you gotta look into it. I'm not saying that the recruiter lied, I'm saying they weren't clear. It's up to you whether the recruiter lied. I don't know your recruiters, but it's very possible that they just were not clear. So you have to lay out exactly, "This is what we expect, this is what we're gonna do for you." By the way, if you don't have an employee handbook, you should have that too, and you should give that to them when they start, but this is even before they start, because you're gonna wanna talk to them in the interview. Not everybody belongs at your company. Not everybody is the right fit. Not every driver is the right fit for your company. It doesn't make them a bad driver universally. It makes them not a good fit for you. And that's okay. It's actually good because having these things will reinforce your standards and it'll make them happen. You've got to do it. And like I said before, good drivers hate working with bad drivers. And it can be something like even if they have to slip seat for one trip because their truck is getting maintained and the driver who normally drives that truck, is the good driver. And wait, let me start that over. So you've got the good driver, he's off, and the bad driver has to use his truck for a week because the bad guy's truck is in maintenance for the week. And the good driver, of course, his truck is immaculate. And he comes back after a week, and the bad driver was in it for a week, and it looks like a pig pen. You can't have that. It your good driver's gonna hate that, and your good driver's gonna be like, and after enough times that, the good driver's gonna leave. They're gonna say, "Clearly, this company does not care about the kind of drivers it hires. Why should I, as a good driver, mess around with this?" And they'll find a home. They'll find a new home, and you'll wonder why. And let's not have that happen. So, protecting your standards, protecting your mindsets is protecting your fleet. It's protecting your customers. It's protecting your own well-being. And the strongest fleets protect their culture like it's a safety score. You've gotta do it. You've gotta be just vigilant about it, and it's gotta be all the time. And it means sometimes giving tough feedback to your drivers. I'll tell you, by the way, too, with the feedback to the drivers, when I was in my earlier career, I worked in food service, and we would have people who had, bad attitudes is what we would call it. But we would do their review, and it's hard to explain bad attitudes. You can't just say, "Don't be like that." It doesn't work. So you can use the mindsets, and you can say, one of our mindsets I'll give you is fix it with a level head. Means problems are gonna happen. We all work in the real world, but we gotta fix them without losing our minds, right? Just fix the problem. And, you you instead of saying bad attitude, you can say, "Hey, we had this problem and you didn't fix it with a level head. So you need to work on that." And it's a coaching session, really. You're just coaching them up. Like, "Look, a good driver would fix this with a level head, or a good office person too." All these things apply to your office people as well. Dispatchers, all of it. And you didn't fix that with a level head. So I think you need to be better. Uh, Now, how do you interview for this stuff? So you're sitting in the interview. Most trucking interviews that I have seen, especially for truck drivers, are, is this driver small enough of a jerk that we can live with him? That's not the standard. Because you're hiring habits. You're not just hiring a driver, you're hiring habits. And so you're hiring mindset. You're bringing those mindsets into your company. You can't just have people say, "I'll try and do those mindsets." They should have those before they even get to you because that's the right people. And so you can ask them in the interview instead of just going. Even you're going to go over their experience. "Oh, you worked for this company and you worked for this company. Tell me what went on there, what happened there." And you're going to get a little bit of it there. For example, one of ours is take ownership. And if they just go, "Everybody was a jerk there and they cheated me and they were jerks." Okay. What about the company before that? "Everybody there was jerks and they were mean and they were all problems." Okay. What about the one before that? "Everybody there was jerks." Yeah, maybe the problem's in the mirror. Maybe it was the driver. So you don't have to rule them out for that, but at least I'd be wondering about it. So here's a question you can ask. I got a few of them for you. You can ask in the interview. And depends on your mindsets, but I'm using kind of a generic set of mindsets that you would employ. Tell me about a time you helped a rookie driver, especially if you're dealing with a driver who's got more than a couple of years in it and they've worked for other people. They should be able to give you a time they helped a rookie driver, and you can listen to how they explain it as well. If they can't come up with one, I mean, you give them a couple seconds to put it together because that's not a question they're going to usually get asked. But they should be able to tell you, yeah, I was in a truck stop and this driver did this, and I told him, hey, you might want to do this thing instead. Or I was, we were in the company that I just worked at, and this driver was trying to back his trailer up and he did this, and I went out there and showed him how to do it right. Something like that. Or what do you do when dispatch makes a mistake? I'd love to tell you dispatch is perfect. I'd love to tell you anybody's perfect. They're not. So with that in mind, you know, dispatch makes a mistake. How do you handle it? And if they're like, oh man, they're a big bunch of jerks, they don't care, whatever. Okay, then you know this isn't the right person. They've already put intent on your dispatcher, and they haven't even met them. And this is just a hypothetical mistake. So things like that. If you ask those questions, another one you can use if you have a particular mindset, you can ask them specifically about that mindset. You can say, "This is what we do this here." Say one of our mindsets is constant, never-ending improvement. Tell me the last thing you did to improve yourself in any part of your life. Because it doesn't just it should be like your life mindsets. It's not just the things you do while you work. And it can be I don't care if they tell me, I watched a YouTube video and learned how to juggle. It's still learning something. It's still learning, and that's what I want. I want people to learn and try and be better. It doesn't mean they have to cure cancer. Be nice if they did, but it means I wanted to be better at something. I listened to this podcast about whatever skill I wanted to make better. There's 80 billion podcasts plus this one. So you can listen to those things. How many billions of YouTube videos that you can watch about being better at something. If you can't even do that, and I'm not even talking about taking classes and reading books and all that kind of stuff. I'm old, but I'm not that old. So you can watch YouTube videos on how to do stuff. If they can't even invest that kind of time, then is constant never-ending improvement really a focus of theirs? I would say it's not. And that's up to you. Maybe constant never-ending improvement isn't one of your mindsets, and that's okay. You pick yours. So, your mission is really your recruiting superpower. It's not the poster. It's not that stupid thing on the wall that says mission statement. We're going to be the best in class at moving all the freight everywhere, and we're going to do it through synergistic processes of synergy with synergy. Those are nonsense. This is real things. This is our missions to help trucking families, and we're going to do it by having people with these mindsets: constant never-ending improvement, take ownership, fix it with a level head, invest yourself in each other. And we've got a couple more. And that's how we're going to do it. We don't actually put the poster up here. We talk about it every week, though. Every week, every meeting, we talk about it. We talk about one of them. And because we continue to define it for our people, to continue to help the new people understand what we're talking about, it's the only way it works. You just continue to remind them. And that's why picking them is very important. And you're not picking them for life. We've changed some of them over the years as we've redefined and honed in on really what we want to do. And that's okay. And you can continue to do that. But it's really important that when you do those things that you stick to them. So because drivers are going to choose companies whose missions feel real. They just are. They're going to choose it's really kind of a value-based company now. Instead of just we haul A to B for pay. We're doing this bigger thing. It's bigger than that. And that creates loyalty. Again, the person in the story who's building the cathedral, right? That's much more powerful than just I make bricks. So let's wrap this up. Know who you are and know who you're not. Drivers leave chaos, not necessarily for cents per mile. Very, very few drivers leave over cents per mile. They might leave over a number of miles, but that's a different problem. Your mindsets will attract the right drivers and the right office people. Clear expectations will equal better retention because we'll all be on the same page going into it. My business coach, Jeff, told me a month ago, I think it was, we were in a meeting, and he said, be clear about what you want. And he was talking about something else. It was really more about the mission itself. Be clear about what you want. But it applies to your mindsets too and what those mean and just how you talk to your drivers, how you talk to your office people, especially in the interviews. Be clear about what you want. This is what I want for a driver. I want them to have these mindsets. I want them to do these things. Be really clear about it. It only helps. And because if people are going to push back, if they push back in the interview, that's a bummer. You wasted an interview. But If they push back when they're employees, it's a lot harder. A lot harder to fire somebody than it is to not hire them. Culture is your screening tool. That your mission and your mindsets will screen in the right people, and it will screen out the right people. So, the right people when I say screen out the right people, I mean the people you wanted screened out. And again, that doesn't make them bad drivers, it doesn't make them bad people, it means they're not in line with what you want, and that's okay. They can go work for somebody else and make a living and do fine, and they might even they'll do better at this other company, quite honestly. We've had people that used to work here that thrived going other places because that was a better fit for them, and good for them. We root for 'em, we're happy for their success. It just whatever reason, and they knew it or we knew it just wasn't gonna work here with our mindsets. Uh, Interview for habits. That's really a big thing. Again, they should have these mindsets before they get there. You're gonna help reinforce it, but, you're not the one, like, starting with a completely blank person and making them develop these mindsets. That's too much. You can't do that. You don't have the time for it. I remember seeing an ad for, I think it was an airline, and they said, "We don't make people happy, we hire happy people." Think of it that way. We don't make these mindsets for you, but we hire the people with the mindsets, and I think that's a really good way to look at it because that's where it's so important, and you gotta do it. And yes, it's hard. It is very hard, especially early on, because you've got that truck payment, and you've got a driver who's qualified, and I'm telling you not to hire them because they're not a good fit. That's gonna hurt. But you're gonna get better at it, and you're gonna find the right drivers, and the right driver will make your life so much better. Just imagine if you've got 40 trucks. I remember talking to a client of ours who had about 40 trucks, and he was like, "Man, I'd love to get rid of the 20% of my worst drivers. My life would be so much better." And I talked to him about it, and I should have told him if I'd have known this then, I would have said, "Well, mission and mindsets," and we'd have gone through it. But yeah, think about how your life would be if your worst 20% of drivers were replaced with good drivers. It's nirvana. You'd walk into work with a spring in your step and be fantastic, and I'm telling you, it can happen. So, that's really what you gotta think of. Don't think about when you're interviewing the driver and you're like, "I know they're not ideal, but I'm just gonna hire them." That lowers the standard for everybody that works for you, and then you're gonna struggle forever. So, have high standards. You've earned the right to have high standards. If you wanna talk to us more about this, I'm trying to cover it in half an hour, and I'm really not hitting everything. If you've got questions, if you've got feedback, reach out to me. You can email me at askmike@truckingpayroll.com. Comment on our socials. Uh, you want to have a conversation? Do it for free. Like I don't even care. It's to me, it's so important. Talk to me about it, and we'll talk to you about what we mean. And you can ask me questions. I'll give you answers. It's not about trying to sign people up and trying to get money out of them. It's about helping trucking families, which is our mission, right? So if it's really our mission, then we got to do stuff like this. But reach out. We'd love to hear from you. If you found this to be helpful, like it, share it, review it. The more people that review it positively, please, the more that this podcast gets exposure through all the magic algorithms of life in the internet. And then it helps more trucking companies. And so we really appreciate it. We do this as a service. You didn't hear any ads in this, hopefully. Um, but yeah, until then, thanks for listening, watching. We'll see you next week.